This morning, a very angry JD Vance sat down with a fed-up Jake Tapper in what can only be described as the most contentious interview of this entire election. Tapper asked JD Vance about the comments made by former Trump officials calling Donald Trump a fascist, calling him a threat to democracy, and JD Vance did what he always does. He lied, he evaded the questions, but when he was really pressed, he just lashed out and started screaming at Tapper as he completely melted down, completely crumbled, kind of realizing that it's over for Trump as he died inside throughout this entire interview that I cannot wait to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now let's get into this interview.
Thank you. So let me ask you, obviously, Trump's former chief of staff, General John Kelly, was alarmed, he says, by what he heard when Trump said he wanted to use the National Guard or the Pentagon to go after the enemy within, Americans with whom he disagrees, including the Pelosi's, Adam Schiff. And then he gave an interview. He said that Trump, quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, that he is, quote, certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. You've called him a disgruntled former employee. But why shouldn't Americans out there listen to somebody who worked closely with Trump, worked with him longer than you've worked with him, retired four-star Marine general, served his country honorably, who is conservative, who says he agrees with Trump on most policies, but is worried about this aspect of Trump?
So let me just say two things in response. So first of all, a lot of what John Kelly, pretty much all of what John Kelly accuses Donald Trump of saying, there were other people in the room, Mike Pence's former chief of staff, for example, who've explicitly said Donald Trump never said those things, right? So one, on
Mike
the
Pence, the
specific
guy
comments,
who's not going to support Trump because
Mike Pence's former chief of staff said that Donald Trump didn't say those things, right? So that's number one. Number two, I actually think there's an interesting conversation here to have, Jake, which is why does John Kelly not support Donald Trump? It's about policy. It's actually not about personality.
He says he agrees with Trump on most policy.
No.
He agrees with Trump on most policy. He disagrees with Trump on how Trump views his role and his and the fascism and the authoritarianism.
I don't buy that, Jake. I don't buy that, because if you actually look at John Kelly, at folks like Liz Cheney, the fundamental disagreement they have with Donald Trump is, even though they say that they're conservative in the sense that they want America to get involved in a ton of ridiculous military conflicts. They want America to police the world, and Donald Trump wasn't.
John Kelly lost a son in Afghanistan. Why are you saying that he, like, I've never heard John Kelly say whether he supports of Iraq or Afghanistan.
And I honor his son's sacrifice, and I honor his family's sacrifice. That doesn't mean he's not wrong about policy.
What specifically are you talking about? What has he said?
Is your argument that a person who lost a son in Afghanistan can't be wrong about public policy?
I'm asking
you.
Then
why bring that up? Let's talk about public policy,
because
I've never criticized his service or his son's service.
I brought it up because you're acting as if he is pro-war, and I've never heard him say whether or not he supported the war in Afghanistan or the war in Iraq. He was a general carrying out orders.
Because I know John Kelly's worldview, and I know the people who have attacked Donald Trump the most vociferously on foreign policy. They'll say, well, he's a dictator, when what they really mean is they won't listen. Donald Trump wouldn't listen to the leadership of the military when they wanted him to start ridiculous conflicts. That is a consistent theme. And I think that there's a big, big thing going on in American politics. It's a very interesting theme in American foreign policy, where a lot of former members of the Pentagon bureaucracy, a lot of old neoconservatives, they have a fundamental difference with Donald Trump on the question of peace and war. I believe Donald Trump is the candidate of peace. I think the record supports that. But the reason these guys go after him so vociferously, I don't think that it's about his personality, Jake. I think that it's about they don't like that Donald Trump said no when a lot of them wanted to start a ridiculous war.
Well, you're ascribing worldviews, I think, based on gut. I can't really tell where you're coming from on it. There's no evidence.
Based on people that I've talked to in the Trump administration,
sure, John Bolton,
what John Kelly wanted to do, John Bolton, Liz Cheney, these people have a consistent...
John Kelly was at the Department of Homeland Security, and then he was chief of staff. He was not weighing in. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Like I said, incredibly contentious to start, and it only got angrier from there. At least JD Vance certainly did. Jake Tapper was holding his own, calling out his nonsense. Of course, Republicans in the Trump administration weren't disagreeing on policy. They were disagreeing on the fact that Donald Trump didn't want to be president. He wanted to be a dictator, and he still does. And that's why they're calling him out. And they're also calling him out for the attacks that he wants to make on our country going forward, like Jake Tapper brought up in this clip right here.
But this is the thing, Jake. We've now spent 5 minutes talking about people in Donald Trump's staff
who think he's not fit for office.
He fired.
Who think he's not fit for office.
Oh, they didn't think he was unfit for office until they had a falling out with him because he fired them. And we're not talking about the public policy. Well, we're actually talk about how Americans can't afford groceries.
We're actually
Can we talk about the fact that Americans can't afford the cost of housing? Can we talk about the fact that a lot of people out there in Erie, Pennsylvania, they're the ones who suffer and die when people like Mark Esper and Mark Milley don't obey the commander-in-chief's orders.
We're talking about Donald Trump and what he says.
Yes.
And Donald Trump says...
And you'd much rather talk about what Donald Trump allegedly said than what Donald Trump did in office. What he did in office, Jake,
what he said publicly,
1.5% inflation.
The military to go after the enemy within, which is the American people.
He did not say that, Jake.
The enemy within?
He said that he was going to send the military after the American people. Show me the quote where he said that.
He said the enemy within.
He said far-left lunatics. He's talking about people rioting.
And Schiff.
He's talking about people rioting after the election. I think
the Pelosi's were rioting after the election?
He said...
Adam Schiff was rioting after the election?
You're using two separate phrases. He said about using the military that far-left lunatics, people who riot in the wake of an election, people who burn down American cities in the summer of 2020, yes, we should have a federal law enforcement
This is what he said to Joe Rogan on Friday. The enemy within that he wants the military to go after.
No, this is
the enemy within a bigger problem than Kim Jong-un.
The second part.
We have people that are really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. That's who the enemy within.
And did he say that he wants to use the military against those people? Here's the game.
Use the military to go after the enemy within.
Here's the game that you're playing. He said that he...
playing a game.
No. Can I answer the question, please? He said that he wanted to use the military to go after far-left lunatics who are rioting, and he also called them the enemy within. He separately, in a totally different context, in a totally different conversation, said that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff were threats to this country.
Were the enemy within.
Were
the enemy within. He said they were the enemy within.
So every time he uses the exact same phrase, we assume that he uses
I don't know. I don't throw around the term of enemy within to talk about using the military against American people.
And you're asking his vice president, but you won't let me answer the question. I'm telling you that Donald Trump has said, and I agree with him, that we should use the U.S. military to go after
Americans.
People who riot, who burn down our cities.
And this was what John Kelly was. This was what John Kelly was alarmed by. The idea of using the U.S. military to go after Americans. That's what he said.
Donald Trump never said Americans writ large. You keep on putting words in his mouth and
Are they or are they not Americans?
Far left people who commit acts of violence, who riot. And
now you're doing a very narrow definition of what he said, which is not what he said. That's not what he said. But let me ask you. Let me ask you the bigger question.
He did say that, Jake. He did. He said that he wanted to use the U.S. military. Let me clarify.
Go after far left lunatics. Yes, and then he also added
people who were rioting and looting.
And
he never said.
He added Schiff. And then he added the Pelosi's.
He never.
And then he added people that don't want the country to succeed.
He said that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi he used in a separate context in a separate conversation. And what you're doing is you're smashing two totally different conversations.
Fox asked him about this last week, and he didn't take issue with it. He said the enemy within is the biggest threat to this country.
But did he say the enemy within that he's going to use the military against Nancy Pelosi? Donald Trump offered Nancy Pelosi the National Guard on January the 6th, and according to private emails, she rejected it. So
It's no surprise that Vance is doing what just the classic Republican move is. Whenever you're asked about Donald Trump or something that he said, you always say, well, that's not what he means. You're taking it out of context. But in terms of this enemy from within line that Donald Trump continues to use, there is no context other than the context that Donald Trump said it in. The first time he said it, Republicans did everything they can to clean up the mess. But he's said it so many times, it is undeniable that he means going after Democrats, going after his political opponents. But of course he does. Of course that's what he meant the first time. It's what he has said before, like what he said about Liz Cheney, which Jake Tapper brought up in this clip right here.
Said on Friday, special counsel Jack Smith should get thrown out of the country. He's threatened to arrest election officials who cheated. We know that he believes a lot of people cheated that did not cheat.
Yes, if you violate the law, you should be arrested. Yes.
No one disagrees with that, but he's talking about...
you do, based on the way you're asking the question.
No, based on the fact that he's accused people that didn't break the law of breaking the law when it comes to the election. And if you want to revisit that, I'm happy to. But Liz Cheney, he said, should be put before a war tribunal. None of that sounds fascist to you at all?
No, of course it doesn't. Of
Putting
course
Liz
it
Cheney
doesn't.
before a military tribunal?
First of all, I don't buy into the premise of what you're saying, Jake, because I just on things that I know that he said, on things that I know that he said, you're imputing things, you're taking words out of context, you're taking two separate conversations and pretending that they were made at the exact same time. So I'm rejecting the premise of your question. I frankly don't believe what you're saying about Donald Trump's words. If you
The man called for military tribunals of Liz Cheney. He wanted to suspend the Constitution because he lost an election. What other context are you looking for? What other meaning are you trying to find? It's the reason Vance is getting so angry, why he's screaming, why he's lashing out, why he's losing his mind, much like his boss. It's because it's indefensible. There is no defense. There's just JD Vance's dishonesty. Because how are you supposed to combat the truth about what the people closest to Donald Trump said when you were saying the same thing before you even knew him? You knew it to be true back then. Their words now and your words then, they match up. Maybe because it's true, JD, and you're just a liar. You haven't changed your mind. You've changed your perspective on how you can get closest to power, and you think it's through Donald Trump. And that is a scary road to go, by the way, considering what happened to his last vice president, which got brought up again in this clip right here.
Why? What you're talking about is an anonymously sourced story, or one guy
Nothing anonymously sourced.
or who one guy who was a disgruntled employee.
I told you,
where five other people pushed back against him and said that what he said was dishonest. So why don't we talk about the policy that's affecting American citizens and not what Donald Trump allegedly said, according to one guy who's pissed off because he got fired by Donald Trump?
I didn't bring up any of the things that he said. He said, I didn't bring up.
You brought up John Kelly, and that I just described.
I brought up John Kelly's view of Donald Trump. I didn't bring up John Kelly talking about what Donald Trump said about Hitler's generals. I didn't bring that up. I talked about John Kelly's view of Trump based on something Trump has been saying in the last week. So that's what I asked about.
So John Kelly makes accusations that are rejected by 5 people.
Again, you're talking about something I didn't bring up.
I think that maybe implicates his overall judgment. And I think the fact that he has a worldview that's so oppositional to peace and prosperity suggests that he's not an honest arbiter here. This is not a guy, John Kelly, going to brag to Jeffrey Goldberg, who is interested in the American truth or is interested in telling an honest account of Donald Trump. He's a guy with an axe to grind because Donald Trump fired him and disagreed with him on policy.
So all those 10 people, including the former vice president, Mike Pence, all of these people have this horribly damaged worldview, and they're all just going after Donald Trump because they want to send people into war? That's really your argument?
Absolutely.
It's not like these are conservative.
Absolutely, that's my argument.
These are not conservative Republicans. These aren't conservative Republicans who are concerned about Donald Trump. They're not. That's not right.
All of these people, Jake, they came into office thinking that they could control Donald Trump. That when he said he wanted peace in the world,
Mike Pence thought he could control Donald
Trump.
Yes,
he did. And when he found out that when he found out that he couldn't, they all turned on Donald Trump, and a lot of them got fired.
I am so glad to see Tapper hold JD Vance accountable like this. We needed more interviews like this throughout this entire election cycle. Better late than never, I guess. But this should be the standard. Call them out with the same fervor in which they attack our country. Call them out and hold them accountable in the same way that they want to attack our democracy. We need more of this, and we're going to keep talking about it on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.